All right, so I had to grab Polly, and I also wanted to follow up on the last video pertaining to uh, the cycle, right? These are two completely different charts. Go look at the last video, it explains it. But also the magnitude of whether or not the U.S. increases the debt ceiling or not. Um, this right here is a chart by FINRA, by the way, the same people who release the short interest report every 2 weeks, the same one that seems to dictate the movement that is seen uh, within the meme stonks. I highlight that phenomenon right. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Where'd you go? Where'd you come from? Where'd you go? No, Joe. Right here. Every green line, vertical green line, is a FINRA SI report being published to the exchanges. You can see what the fuck happened. Scrolling back down, also wanted to highlight the fact that I've been deciphering, compiling, interpreting, and ultimately curating this theory behind the cyclical nature of these stocks, these meme stocks, as Wall Street likes to call them. For as much as they like to shit on the fact that they're highly cyclical, they seem to not want to highlight the very odd correlation between them and that of the margin reports from FINRA. At the beginning of 2021, you seem to have some very interesting lines go up exponentially. Not to also forget the reverse repo. Which also seemingly has some correlation. So, with Congress either passing or defaulting on the notion of increasing the debt limit, if they don't, and or if they are to stall, and or anything else that could potentially cause some anxiety amongst institutional investors. Stutter who? What we have to remember is inflation and deflation are very, 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 very volatile events. More so the latter. When you deflate something, I think it's literally just think of it like filling up a balloon. Putting the air into the balloon, you know, it's a pretty consistent repeating movement of inflating. But when it deflates, much like what we're about to see with how debt is managed and reflected and utilized. The latter of that, of those, what's the word for that? Not alliteration. Whatever the literary word is for when you try to imitate the sound of something. Deflation is much more violent. Deflation is supposed to essentially enact a reversing of whatever was inflationary. It is much easier to inflate than it is to deflate, because inflating is increasing the surface area of a particular underlying currency or asset. When you deflate, you are inversely increasing the value of debt, because the amount of debt that exists is derived from some form of underlying, whether it's the US dollar or a derivative of some sort. But when you inflate something, you're simply allowing for more debt. Yeah? You're you're devaluing the currency such that the debt no longer holds as much of intrinsic oomph. Yeah? However, however, okay, I just had to make sure I was recording for this because I'm a nitwit sometimes. Um, when you deflate, wrong fucking shit. Oh fuck, here we go. Okay. When you deflate a currency, you are inversely increasing the intrinsic value of debt. If you owe me $10, or rather, let's say I owe you $10. If I owe you $10, right? But then the intrinsic value of the dollar goes up from deflation because we're getting rid of some of the. I'll get to that later. But I owe you $10 and we start to deflate our currency. If inflation caused the dollar to devalue itself, but deflation causes the value of the dollar to go up at the intrinsic level, then my debt is no longer just $10. It'll read as $10, but the implications of that, because the intrinsic value of the underlying currency is now going up, the amount of debt raises in proportion. So whether that is mortgages, car payments, cell phone payments, loans, margin, because margin is also a form of debt, the implications of that are uncanny, right? Um, if this isn't passed, right, and the unfortunate reality is that we hope that the margin, or it would be one and the same, but we are hoping that the debt ceiling is not increased despite the unfortunate implications of that, because that means a lot of interest rates are going to go up. That means a lot of debt is going to be called for. That means a lot of everything that has anything to do with devaluing our currency will be going in the reverse direction for people in suits and people in blue collars alike. If this isn't passed, this will surely trigger a massive margin call for the whole entire country, for the whole entire world, because of the fact that we are now increasing the value of the US dollar. With that in mind, this chart right here is not retail. This chart right here is not held by meme stock owners of their portfolio. This chart right here is not held by the everyday American who's just trying to have a better financial future for themselves. This is Wall Street. If the right-hand side of these two columns, if the second column, in other words, you fucking dumbass, if the second set of columns here comes to fruition, this chart and this graph, whatever you want to call it, is going to have some very, 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 very eerie. Let's just act like I didn't do that. This chart right here is going to have some very eerie details that ensue. This chart will look much more rational, like that of its former three counterparts. Right here, and right here. It should have been cut off right here, but then we had... I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say what it was, just because not only will it get me removed because of YouTube's neat, nice, and politically correct algorithm, but also because I don't think it's relevant, and I think it's a media-based ploy. Anywho, the implications of deflation are at extraordinary levels. And those who hold this line, those who contribute to this line, are going to have a very, 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 very rude awakening. Whoever had the great idea to not cover these stunks, these meme stunks, whoever had the idea to not cover at much more realistic, fortunate, less stupid opportunities, are soon going to find themselves at a very very unfortunate set of circumstances. Um, it's staring everybody right in the face, right? And nobody wants to point at the elephant in the room. So from what I've been seeing so far, um, it appears as though that we will not be reducing, or increasing rather, we will not be increasing the debt ceiling. Um, Congress has just no conclusion for it, evidently. Um, this is going to create a lot of volatility. This is going to create a lot of uncertainty for markets and people alike. What's good about this is that uncertainty and volatility typically equal to that of green on the meme stocks. As I've pointed out in the past, these appear to be hedging devices relative to the S&P. If you've ever looked, or even care to, you can literally compare these two. I will pull up the SPY, and GME is right on top. And let me do year to date and year to date. All right, and let me just do this. All right. Doesn't look too familiar until I do this. Hold on, let me just undo the colossal amount of stupidity that move was. Hold on. There we go. So the past 3 months and the past 3 months. Right. So this is what the S&P actually looks like. Here's what it's looked like when you flipped up. Here's what it looks like when you flip it upside down. Just a little familiar, eh? Just a little bit? Just a little bit. Pretty neat, huh? So when you designate stocks to perform inversely of the index that contains the top 500 US companies, when you seemingly designate it as the inverse of the performance of said 500 US companies, if said 500 US companies collectively exhibit a result that is not particularly affable or sought afterable, that would imply that the movement on those that have been designated as hedging devices would perform the inverse of that, which is good. Yeah? How fucking good. Let's find out Monday, cocksuckers.